Hi, I'm Big Lou, and this is Big Lou Barbecue and other things I want to do. And what I want to do today is do another coffee video, and it's a little sad because when I started my channel, I had some ideas for videos I wanted to do on coffee, and over the past couple years, I've done a few of them. This is the last idea I got, and it's one I've been wanting to do for quite some time because it's one of my favorite ways to do coffee. All right, I grew up about an hour north of New Orleans and kind of grew up exposed to coffee and chicory. My family didn't drink it all the time. To be honest, my dad didn't prefer it. My mom would drink it ever so often. And when I got into my late teens and 20s, I really got into the coffee and chicory thing. But I would buy the store brands. There's lots of good store brands. There's CDM, there's Café du Monde, there's French Market, there's Louisiane. Community makes a New Orleans blend with coffee and chicory. Now, basically I found out, that it's 1/3 chicory to 2/3 coffee. That's it. And if you can, nowadays you can get the chicory online, so it's real easy to find. This came from nuts.com. It was actually sent to me in a care package from a subscriber, and I thank him. And I've been using it a lot in coffee over the past couple months, but the reason I really wanted it was to use it in barbecue rubs. And I've used some on a chuck roast recently and on a London broil, and I'm gonna put some on a brisket probably later today. But I've been using it in rubs, but I've also been making coffee with it. And that's the primary reason why this bag is more than half gone. It's not really the rubs, it's the coffee I've been making with it. Love coffee and chicory. Now, if you're not familiar, listen to the history lesson a little bit. You can skip ahead if you want to, but if you're watching it this far, you probably want to know what the heck chicory is and why they drink it in New Orleans. We're also going to be talking about Café au Lait, and I'm going to be pouring up a nice cup of Café au Lait. All right. My understanding of the history is chicory is a root, all right? And they roast it and they toast it, and it gives a flavor similar to coffee, but it's a little more bitter. All right, it does not have caffeine in it. So if you're not doing caffeine, a cup of chicory, you can make pure chicory, and it used to be very popular in the 19th century. All right, and it was during the 19th century that it got popular in New Orleans because during the Civil War, like if you tour the South, New Orleans is one of the only cities in the South that still has colonial architecture. The French Quarter, built by the Spanish because it burned down when the Spanish owned it. So it's all Spanish architecture in the French Quarter. It's a historic district of New Orleans. It's still standing. The buildings were built mostly around 1788 after the fire, but it was founded earlier than that in the 1720s by the French. All right, so they call it the French Quarter. All right, but it's still got colonial architecture. You see, during the Civil War, a lot of cities in the South, Atlanta was burned, Baton Rouge was shelled, Vicksburg, a lot of old buildings were destroyed. But the French in New Orleans, they surrendered right away. They were like, the Union troops got there, hey, we quit. It's kind of the thing, not saying, just they surrendered. But the good news about that is the history of New Orleans is still there. So New Orleans was occupied during most of the Civil War. Rest of Louisiana was still fighting, but New Orleans was occupied during most of the Civil War. There were embargoes there and stuff like this, and then during Reconstruction, it was very hard. So coffee was rationed at best and contraband at worst, all right? And so to make the coffee stretch, they started cutting it with chicory a little bit. Well, after Reconstruction, you could get coffee cheaper, but the folks in New Orleans were used to their coffee and chicory, and they liked it because Reconstruction didn't end until 1877. So you're talking a period here of about 12 or 13 years where people had gotten used to the taste of chicory in their coffee, and it's a New Orleans tradition. Now, it's very common to serve it as Café au Lait, which is simply French for coffee with milk. You say, well, what's the difference in that and a latte? Well, a latte doesn't have the chicory in it. All right, and they warm the milk up, and it's usually about half and half. Here's why. Chicory is a little more bitter than coffee, all right? And the thing about bitter foods is they're really good, but when you sweeten them, they become, wonderful. Like think of cocoa powder. Cocoa powder's bitter, right? But when you sweeten cocoa powder, oh, you got chocolate, right? And grapefruits are bitter, but a lot of people like to put sugar on a grapefruit because it makes it delicious. So I drink coffee and chicory black. In my younger days, I was a black coffee man if you're not drinking it black, and I still am a black coffee man. I prefer coffee black most of the time, but I've softened a little bit in my old age, and I realized, there's more ways to prepare coffee than just black. There's much more things you can do to it than just black. And since chicory can be a little more bitter than milk, and the sweetness softens that, and so you use half a cup of warm milk and half a cup of coffee and chicory, and then you sweeten it to your liking. You can sweeten it with whatever you want to. You want to use artificial sweetener, use that. I'm gonna be using some Louisiana cane sugar. It's also good sweetened with honey, all right? And then it's usually served with beignets, which are like diabetes on a plate. They're awesome, all right? They're these French donut things, and they're covered in powdered sugar. All right, but today is Mardi Gras. I'm not really into Mardi Gras. As I mentioned, in my younger days when I was a black coffee drinking man all the time, I was also, into Mardi Gras, but now I'm older and wiser and not as young and foolish, and I ain't really into Mardi Gras. But since today is Mardi Gras, I'm gonna serve my Café au lait with a nice slice of cream cheese king cake. All right, my percolator's just about finished, y'all. Let's heat up this milk. Using this old percolator pot makes it somewhat easy because this percolator basket is 9 cups. And all I gotta do is fill it to 1/3 or 3 cups with the chicory. It's marked right inside there. And then the rest of the way to the 9 cups with regular coffee. All right, so we're just gonna, you know how to make coffee. And you can use a drip pot, you can use a French press, and I like using this old percolator from the 1960s. All right, so I just stuck a filter down the bottom, one of those paper filters, because modern coffee is made for drip pots, most of it, and they don't have a lot of percolator going. All right, so I'm gonna take this chicory. It smells so delicious whenever you open it up. And I've been using it a lot in rubs, as I said in the intro. All right, get my scoop. You see, that's what it looks like, all right? This is a little coarser ground than most coffee. And I'm just gonna fill it to the 3-cup line with chicory. That's about it, but I need a little bit more. That's about all I need. Now fill it up to the 9-cup line with coffee. You know how to do this. It's not hard. All right, put the lid on it, put the stem on it, drop it in there, put the cap on it, plug it in, and let it toast, let it roast. It's going to percolate in just a minute. Look at that. Look at that. You can smell it too. With the chicory, it just smells so good. It's just finished perking. Just finished right before I turn the camera off. I'm gonna serve it up with this nice slice of cream cheese king cake. And I've got my cup of milk in my L cup for Lou. My last name, Lewis. That's where we get Lou from, right? And, or Louisiana, Hey, and I got the milk all warmed up. About 45 seconds in the microwave is good for me. You can put it in there for a minute if you want to. All right, but you want about half cup of milk for a Café au lait now. I will drink coffee chicory black, but if you're not used to black coffee, you probably don't want to start your black coffee drinking with coffee and chicory. In fact, I was at Café du Mont in Covington, Louisiana recently, and I ordered with my beignets black coffee and chicory, and the girl said, you don't want milk in it? So it's very common to put the milk in it, all right? And you just pour in the coffee and chicory. It's beautiful, and you'll get this wonderful color like that with the warm milk. You definitely want that milk warm. You can sweeten it how you want to. If you want to use an artificial sweetener, go ahead, all right? It's really good with a good honey. All right, so this is a Louisiana kind of honey here, but honey's honey, And then I've got this Louisiana organic cane sugar. That's just beautiful, all right? And so I'm gonna put it in there, stir it around, and enjoy this with my slice of king cake, all right? Café au lait, it's easy. Let's say le bon temps roulé. Good, y'all. That's good. I'm glad I've softened in my old age to where I can enjoy coffee. Doesn't always have to be black with me. I like it black, but sometimes this is enjoyable. Yep, the c'est la bon temps roulé. I gotta eat that king cake.